On this episode of Designer Notes, I found the secret to prolonging the life of your watch, and you'd be surprised what it is. On our microbrand section, we're going to be reacting to 3 microbrands that you suggested recently. And finally, in our viewer comments, I'm going to give you the reasons why you should care about Swiss-made watches and why you shouldn't in some ways. All of that in Designer Notes. You may have heard of reference points. Now, reference points are mostly a bunch of numbers, letters, clumped together to create the model number of your watch. A specific variant will have its own reference point. And by definition, it is a very important part of the watch's design, but at the same time, it is one of the most ignored. Now, reference by definition, is a source of information in order to ascertain something. Now, it kind of sounds like it is something very important, and it is in a way, but most people don't really see the importance of such rather than just simply showing that they know the actual name of their watch or the variant that they have, or maybe to distinguish one uh, variant from another. And actually, that's what we're going to focus on because that is one of the biggest uses of reference points, especially on a watch. Now, to begin, we would like to illustrate this in a way that everyone will likely comprehend. I always use basketball references or basketball illustrations to give out my point. For example, the ever so alive and at least relevant for our time argument of who is the greatest ever or the GOAT. Is it Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Now, I would always have a favorite or a dog in this fight, and I am, let's just say, I am biased to Michael Jordan, but then again, I mean, I'm open to any other opinions. But that's also beside the point and probably other totally different channel to build upon. But my point here is that many people use the wrong reference points to compare those two people. Now, one example is of course in the scoring. And while LeBron James is the NBA player that holds the most points in the history of the league, Michael Jordan is the most prolific when it comes to scoring. And of course, caveat on that, most is because that is a very subjective point. But nevertheless, the reference point that most people use there to compare the two are, well, getting points. It's kind of similar to um, comparing two steel watches, while one is the most produced or sold steel watch in the world, while the other is one of the most legendary or most iconic. You see, it's still both the same as a reference point used here in this case is steel material. But you do see or you do realize the importance of reference points. Because without those reference points, there's no argument in the first place, there's no source for you to compare with, and there's no common ground to play around in. And thus, reference points actually hold a very key or important part of your watch. Now, case in point, one of my most popular videos is the Rolex Submariner, the video about Rolex Submariner, and every reference point at the point that I was able to make. And that was very entertaining, and to this day, some people are still watching that video. Why? Because it's entertaining to see the different points of changes that the Submariner went through. And these points of changes are interesting in itself because they're able to show the progression of the watch. Now, of course, without those reference points, you won't see the differences between the previous model to the next model ahead of it. And sometimes even some parallel models in between or during its production. And sometimes the differences are very minute, but it's a different nonetheless. And without reference points, there's no way for us to pinpoint where those changes are. Now, changes are, of course, very important as well. As you can see, the progression from one design to another, and these are all tagged or identified using their reference points. Now, why I'm saying this is because reference points can be used, in fact, not just on the watch, but for the watch and for you as the person itself that has been using the watch. Case in point, I'm using my uh, Omega Seamaster Mark II, and this marks a special reference point, not for the watch, but for my life. I remember this is the first watch that I bought when I first got my visa and I traveled alone for the first time. Yes, that may be something to scoff at for especially for a 40-year-old man who has reached this point of his life and not yet traveled on his own. But nevertheless, it is a reference point that I will never forget. And every time that I see this Submariner, I will always remember that time that I spent in Curacao for that endeavor. Another reference point for me is this Solas. Now, I bought this Solas. Well, actually, really tried to convince and succeeded at that at convincing the owner or the brand owner to sell me his prototype because I felt this is a special point in my life that I could remember. And I put that as a reference to my son overcoming many of his challenges. And since then, it has become our watch. We have shared this watch, and now my other son has been wearing it as well. To the point that he dropped this watch and broke it. Well, at least broke the dial. It still works. The micro rotor movement inside it still works. However, part of the Solus branding has fallen off, and also that subdial uh, frame has also been dislodged. So that's the the current situation of this Solus watch. It's still a Venturine. It's still not cracked, so it is still a good thing. I probably need to service this or open it up and fix it myself. But nevertheless, that goes to show that even when the watch has been broken or has even been gone in my possession, the reference point remains because I'm the one who actually put that as a reference. Another one for myself is this Horology Story X Design Atelier watch, the 6030 chronograph. It is the collaboration between me and Horology Story. It's my very first manufactured watch, which is a big deal to me. It's something that marks as a realization of my ideas of having such a drawing and now translated into something that is actually in the metal that I could hold and you could actually buy. It's actually for sale now in Indonesia and hopefully soon internationally as well. But that's a reference point that I put on the watch, regardless of when it was manufactured or when it was sold. It's actually completely arbitrary up to me. And that's the beauty and the power of reference points. Reference points not for the watch, but for my own history. And this is the other argument that we may have. Another reference, for example, that I would remember is the Zelos black tip that I produced for my channel. It's still being viewed as of today. Some of you are still view it, and it marks one of the very first watches that I reviewed from Zelos. It's not the first one. The first one is the Aurora, but that black tip was a pivotal point in the channel wherein I got one of my first waves of viewers, and also I'm quite proud of how what I was able to achieve in the production of that video. But that watch, to be honest, is not in my possession anymore. I have long since given it out to someone who actually enjoys the watch. It's not that I don't enjoy the watch, but now it lives in a home that appreciates it, at least for the betterment of the channel. And that's the actual truth with regards to this channel. Some of the watches that you've seen or you see in this channel has already been gone. It's either being given away or sold off to continue the channel's operation. But all of those memories remain here and has been etched in history with the videos that I made. And even if those videos were deleted, even if the watches are gone, it doesn't erase the fact that I have experienced a tremendous amount of, well, life experience with those watches. And I mark those with reference points within my life. And that's actually what endears a watch to many enthusiasts. I saw a video from Federico Talks Watches, and a viewer suggested or asked what kind of wedding gift would he be able to give his buddy that he would be proud of. Well, Federico suggested a Rolex that has a clear case back, not a clear, but a full metal case back that he could etch on it. While many people would say, why etch something at the back of a Rolex where it would immediately depreciate its value? Well, according to Federico, and I do agree 1000%, that watch is not intended to leave the, the recipient's possession at all. It is a gift that marks their friendship, marks a pivotal point in his life, which is a marriage, and etching something or at the back of it would make a lot of sense because the ultimate value of that watch is not the monetary status or the monetary value of the piece, but rather the moment that it references. And even if that watch ceases to exist, ceases to function, the reference remains. The person who owns it will forever remember that moment because when he looks at that watch, he remembers that moment. He remembers that reference point. So, in essence, this is the most cost effective way to actually prolong the life of your watch by putting an actual reference point in your history, in your life, to mark the occasion and use the watch to do that. Now, that also is a balancing act in a way because I also believe that these are objects and objects should be treated as merely objects. Um, they should not be treated something as of so dear or so precious to the point that a life may even be um, diminished or even lost because of it. No, we shouldn't love objects. And I want to emphasize here, it's not the love of the object, but rather the history and the memory that you attach to it. Because in fact, that's what I've been emphasizing all this while. You should be able to have a certain presence of mind, a certain acceptance that these watches will cease to exist, will rust and be eaten by moth, and will disintegrate maybe in a few thousand years, long after you've lived and well leave this earth in a way. Like for example, the Zelos. It has in a way been slightly destroyed. It's not in its pristine condition anymore, and yet it's still in my possession. It still holds a dear reference point in my life, and that prolongs the life of this Solas, that prolongs the life of your watch. It's not a reference point for the watch, but rather a reference point for your life. Now, before we move on to our next segment, I would also like to give a brief airtime with our friends at Kunuku Coffee Roasters. It's been a while since we've talked about them, but they're a special bunch of people. You know, Kunuku Coffee Roasters are people that really care, not for watches, but rather for coffee. And you could taste that immediately And I always taste that whenever I open a bag and brew it myself. You see, you can only order these on Saturdays because that's the time, the perfect time that they can give it out so that all of its roasted goodness is at its peak. Now, during Sundays, they, of course, take ample care of these granules of these beans. And on when it comes to Monday, they clothe them, they bathe them appropriately, they clean them, and then on Tuesdays, they prepare all of the dressings, all of the packages, and then they murder them on Wednesday by roasting them to the proper roasted goodness and to the proper levels so that you can enjoy, once again, the the fermentation. Do they call it fermentation process? Do they call it fermentation? No, I don't know. Well, they probably know better because they're experts at that. And then when Saturday comes, once again, it's time for you to get your bag. My bag is the Nicaragua this time around. There's a lot of different flavors that you can always check out in their Instagram page. And also, they have, you know, some occasional giveaways here and there. So if you're in Aruba, you can enjoy this one of a kind coffee, Kunuku Coffee Roasters. Handcrafted coffee, the best coffee in the universe. Take my word for it because I said so. Right. Now, let's move on to our next segment, Microbrands Unscripted. Here, I'm going to check them out one by one. You suggested second hour, Duckworth Prestex, and Octane. So, well, you suggested a lot more actually, but these are the three brands that I'm going to um, review for this time. So, first, second hour watches. Now, I'm not really familiar with their history, but they seem to be okay. If we look here in their website, they came from, they're founded in Melbourne in 2019, and they had this eight-pointed star as their logo. Peter and Akira, a husband and wife duo, has been running this this brand, and they have a lot of collections already. They have a number of dive watches. There's a really good compressor style dive watch there, and also some. These are more ornate field watches, and of course they have this new Cartier tank homage. Not a homage, complete homage, but it's popular. That kind of case has been popularized by Cartier. So what can I say about this brand? This brand is is a lot more ornate um, than most micro brands, and they seem to have established themselves already with this very particular design. Many of them have these gyro shaped patterns that you could see on their dials, which is really great, really good. I don't think that they are actually um, machine gear shade. Otherwise, they would cost very good penny. But they seem to be running at around the usual 500 to 600, $700 price range. And to be honest, it looks a lot busy when it comes to their watches. Not just with their dials, but also the type of bracelet they use. They tend to like these kind of ornate bracelets and very multiple link bracelets. And some of you actually like that, so that's a big plus. But they have four categories now. They have a large selection of dive watches. They have some field watches. They even have some limited editions now. But what um, catches my attention the most is their memoir, their latest release. There's squarish, curved uh, Cartier tank esque watch that they have. It's a lot more reserved compared to the others, while at the same time it has that new and different uh, case compared to the other dive watch and field watch cases that they had. And they also come in many different colors, and the colors are very well curated. I like that. There's a bright pop of red if you want the conventional blue and silver tone. They have that too, and they have the usual black and ever so popular green variants. I think this is the more interesting. Their watches. Their prices are pretty okay. It's pretty much on par with other micro brands, and there are some really interesting designs. It's just a little too busy for my taste. Now, next is Duckworth Prestex. Prestex, okay? And if you saw uh, Second Hours collection, well, Duckworth has pretty much the same amount of watches to offer you, and they have while most of other micro brands tend to focus on the rounded cases, these have the cushion case predominantly with their designs. They have cushion cases that look like uh, the Vacheron Constantin 1926, 21. I can't remember that all the time. But anyway, they have those kind of cushion cases while having fixed and rotating bezels on their designs. They even have a chronograph, which is also pretty cool. I think that's the my favorite of them all. It's of course um, yeah, you have the usual black and green and blue colorways, and these can come in a steel mesh, which is very lovely. I think this is the best that they have to offer, and I'm really hmm, I'm really impressed with the way they build their watches. It seems that they have a good taste when it comes to variations of satin finishes and polish facets. Really nice. Really well reserved. The balance on their dials is also really good. It's not too busy, not so. If there's any criticism that I could say, the Duckworth Prestex is just too big when it comes to their dial. I think they could use a little bit more negative space or a little bit more breathing room to when using that on a compact style. But aside from that, they have some really good taste when it comes to their watches. They also offer some Cartier tank uh, models, so that's also a plus. And is this? Yes, the movement is quartz, so that's why it's very thin. While the other watches that they offer are mostly automatic and mostly mechanical. The other watches are pretty bland to me. That's what I think their claim to fame is that cushion case, and that cushion case always gets me, especially the brush finish with those polished facets. Really nice, and these are known to be very accommodating when it comes to different strap designs and strap colors. So, and they also offer that. They also offer a lot of straps and uh, and bracelets. They also have that fine mesh bracelet there being offered separately, which is nice. So when it comes to micro brands offering these kinds of options, makes you feel um, welcome to their ecosystem of, of, of watches and designs. And that's something we are also trying to uh, put into practice when it comes to our own brand, which is also in the works. Hopefully, we can announce that very soon. I've already made some videos about it, so watch out for that. And that's Duckworth Prestex. Next and last is Okami. Now, Okami has probably the least to offer here because the previous watches that they have, they're all sold out. Actually, all of them are sold out, so I don't know how you're going to buy uh, an Okami watch. Is it really Okami? Wait, one moment. A Namica, sorry, Namica watches. It's the Okami that I gravitate towards. It's really funky and it has a sense of GShock to me, which is well, which is why I guess I gravitate towards this this watch. But the one that I really like is the all blacked out PBD coated, or DLC. I think it's DLC. Is it DLC? Where's it at? I think the the blacked out dial is amazing. Yes, DLC. So that's extra protection for you. So the blacked out dial is just also very stealthy, very um, not chic, but rather very reserved. And with all of those curved angles, you would see that this is something that you could, that a military guy who's into stealth and that kind of stuff would gravitate towards. I like that. It looks like a GShock to me, but in metal. And this is what? This is titanium, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, grade 2 titanium, which is a big plus. And considering that this is just $550, this is a steal. It's grade 2 titanium with DLC, and it has some really nice and angular designs to it. Very reserved. It's got that personality going for it, like a reserved, stoic personality, but somewhat mysterious also. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. I don't know. I'm trying to explain to you how I get to that vibe, but most of the time when it comes to black, uncolorful, stale, and serious color, that's what most people see. But at the same time, when you pair that up with some really unusual angles, it looks more radical and different in a way. So that's what this Okami from Namica watches gives me an impression of. Now that's the side part though. It doesn't seem to be available anymore. I don't know if they're going to continue to make these, but I hope so because they occupy a unique area of the market of microbrands, and I see that they kind of swayed away from that because their initial offering was the usual colorful dive watch. They even have the first turbo blue Okami to hint at that colorful nature, but then they started to go into that stealthy black and angular design that they have now with the Okami. I think the Okami is their more successful uh, collection, and I hope that they still produce these, and well, hopefully they could also give one to the brand. So, what do you think about these three micro brands? Let me know, and when I post that inevitable uh, channel post, stay tuned to it so that we can also hear about other micro brands that you want me to talk about. And now it's time for your viewer comments. Let's begin here with our latest video, the comments on that. We have a couple of comments for that Venezianico de Oreo. And Andra Jevtovic says, this is the first watch with gold in it that I like. I guess the fact that it is just on the dial and not the case made the difference. Beautiful timepiece. And thanks for the review. And also, he loves the watch box, the watch winder that I have in the background. That's also going to be reviewed very, very soon. Well, I don't want to say very, very. It feels like I'm going to review it tomorrow, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But we're going to review that. I think that's the second video after the Mirage watch travel roll travel case that I'm going to review. But going back to his comment here about gold in watches, I think that is a very true statement, and we may not acknowledge that readily, but that is the sentiment of many people, because there are certain people who are averse or are against gold watches. Gold meaning gold cased or gold bracelet or even two-tone for that matter. Some people don't like that, and to be honest, even my kid also expressed that sentiment. He he doesn't like gold. For some reason, gold doesn't manifest in the youthful mindset, or anyone who's youthful at the very least doesn't want gold, or vice versa. But anyway, having gold on the dial may be the gateway to that, because at first glance, actually you don't see that it's gold. It kind of looks more like a lively, vibrant yellow in most respects and in most angles, and that's why people may tend to actually accept that more, because it resembles their other watches, because other watches use the dial as a way to show their colorful or lively nature, and that's where they could express a lot of the designs that is mainly the spotlight or the showcase of the piece in the first place. And having that being 24 karat gold further emphasizes that impression, further emphasizes that idea that the dial is the showcase of the watch. And some people might even say that watches are fashion accessories, which is true, and the first thing that grabs your attention really is the dial. So having that as 24 karat gold kind of makes sense. It's luxurious and has that old time or old world way of adding color or life to your watch, and it could be a lot more acceptable, and it is a lot more acceptable compared to the full gold watch and bracelet, watch case and bracelet that most have. Benjamin Viss also commented in this video, and he wants to ensure his place in the Watch Pirates Hall of Fame. So he wants to hijack, and always hijacks, my comment section, and this is no different. And here's what it says. But he did say something that is of note here, that he would like to stress again that there's an even more affordable 24 karat gold filled, in fact, watch, and that is the Wise Adamascus 15, Wise AD 15. And in his opinion, the dial is easily outcompetes the Venezianico in terms of visual prowess and intricacy, as do the markers and hands. It's just more all around, except that it isn't a bracelet or available in the bracelet. It's available only on a strap. Yeah. And I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe I'll have to reserve that until I actually see a Wise Adamascus in gold in the first place. But let me dissect what he's trying to say here. I think he's trying to say that it's a little bit more complex and intricate to produce that Wise Adamascus dial, and at the same time, it's a lot less expensive. Not a lot, but it is less expensive. Now, case in point, he said it's gold filled. This Venezianico is electroplated, so it's a lot easier to do that, right? Because all you need to do is dip it into an electroplating bath and make sure that you have enough gold particles in there, and then the chemical process will do its thing. And it is a lot easier and a lot more even compared to gold filling a dial. Gold filling, you have to actually lay the layers of gold on it, and then or maybe it's the other way around. You have to carve out the textures or the surface itself first, and then lay the gold filling. That's the process. Either way, it takes a two-step process that it is a little bit more complicated, and makes me wonder how they could get this at less price, which is really exceptional. Maybe it is because they don't have the Adamascus case, or they don't pair that up with an Adamascus bracelet, which they have since produced in 904L steel, which also says a lot, because I know so. We tried to produce a 904L steel watch, and it's very difficult to source that material. Not very, very difficult, but it is more expensive than your regular steel. because not many watch companies use 904L. So that is a plus, and that creates the impression that the wise at Damascus is a lot cheaper than the Venezianico. And in some regards, it is. But I'm going to reserve my judgment on that, if that is a better watch, because of course, when we talk about best, better, or great, or good, I mean, it's all subjective. And pricing, I'm not really as focused on pricing anymore as when it comes to the value of a watch to me. But I guess, yeah, Benjamin Viss has a point there, that it is a lot harder to produce. Next, we have a comment here about the Alto 8 Roto. Fortis Fortuna Adiuvat 1071. No second hand. Mandat Broda is much better and cheaper. Is that an actual watch brand? Let me check that out. Mandat Broda. So this is now the fourth microbrand that we're going to check out unscriptedly. Okay, it kind of looks like the same. It kind of looks very, very similar. They have some two tones going on here, some sort of panda configurations also in some. That's actually kind of pleasing. I like that. And okay, it does have that. Let me address that. That's second hand. No second hand on the Alto 8 Roto. Yes, I do agree. That is a misstep. I think they should have found a way to actually do that. That they should be able to put a running seconds hand on that dial. And that's the same complaint that I have with Atawak when they initially produced their Wandering Hour watches. They didn't have that running seconds indicator at the center of their watch, so it's hard to see whether the watch is actually working. And that's the main disadvantage of these kinds of watches, because the Wandering Hour inherently, well, is very slow, because it's the hour hand that revolves and wanders in a way, and you don't see that unless you're actually winding the watch. But if you do have the second hands working in front of it, then you know that, hey, okay, it's working. So that accomplishes that purpose, that the watch is actually in operation. And the second thing is, it's visually more appealing because it's more dynamic and there's animation to it, and it emphasizes to you that the watch is alive. And just imagine if it's a wandering second watch, right? That would have been amazing to see that. Well, maybe that's a good idea there. Is it possible? Yes, it's actually possible to make a wandering second watch. That's a good idea. However, the challenges for that is that you need to have enough torque to move those three hands or those three arms with 4 numerals at the same time. It has to be either really, really light, and at the same time it should be it should be robust enough to handle the torque that's in the center, because that if you have so much weight at the tip, that would really mess up the movement in the center. And I don't think that common movements would have that much power and torque in the center of the stack, especially for the second hand. That's why most second hands are just needles, because it's light. But at the same time, for these Wandering Hour complications, they're not really complications that were designed for designed for the movement. Or let's just say they're not movements that were designed to have that complication in mind. Most of these Chinese movements, they modify an existing Miyota caliber with something on top of it by adding a few gears and mechanisms on the dial, making it a little bit thicker, and that facilitates the wandering hour mechanism. But that is the difference now when you're paying for thousands of dollars for an Audemars Piguet that has that kind of wandering hour, or like an Urwerk who's specifically designing these movements to have that kind of functionality, of that kind of complication. But hey, wandering hour or wandering seconds watch, that would be a really good watch to look at. You could constantly see that wandering hour seconds. That would be very, very nice. But I don't know if it's possible to even pull that off. Next comment. This is coming from an old video from the BR05 automatic and automatic chronograph, the ones that I reviewed. Whoa, this is years back, maybe 2 years ago. VIP RP30Q says, just bought one. It's absolutely stunning in person, and it's smaller than the pics would suggest and the videos show. My wrist is 6.75, just slightly beefier than mine, and looks not big at all compared to so many dive watches. Okay. Has an industrial look, but very dressy. The bracelet is gorgeous. I do agree. And after a couple of years of seeing the BR05, I think Bell & Ross hit the ballpark with this one. I think after the initial hype and the initial criticism about it being a Royal Oak homage, or rather a Nautilus knockoff, all of those seem to have died off, and I think the BR05 has carved out its own niche. It doesn't look like a PRX, which most people also have created a video of, and it doesn't look like anything from Patek nor from AP. And I think the Bell & Ross made a really good choice with their design and with the integrated bracelet and case that they made here. And in retrospect, looking back, they may be onto something. They were looking forward at to what this watch could represent. And I think at this point, the BR05 collection from Bell & Ross is more iconic than their other Bell & Ross watches. Okay, that may be hyperbole there, and many of you may not agree with me, but you cannot deny that this is more pleasing to many people now than ever before. I'm not a fan of any of the Bell & Ross watches. I know their appeal. Their appeal is that aviation instrument design that they're going for. That's what they're trying to constantly appeal to. But this one made it a lot more accessible to people. And when it, let's just say, when it became mainstream, that's the point of a watch, or any brand for that matter, that it gains its notoriety, because more people know about it, more people are attracted to it. And I think that's what the BR05, the collection, was able to do. And now they have so many different variants of this. They even made like a ceramic version, which is also very gorgeous. They have some really cool open work skull variants of this watch, and it's a big success for Bell & Ross. And I think it continues to gain momentum. And I think we're all past the point wherein this is a homage of the big boys, and it's carved its own niche, and I applaud Bell & Ross for that. They saw that ahead of time, or they stuck to their guns. They didn't just make this into one-off watch collection, but rather they started to milk it as well, like how Tissot milked their PRX, but not in the PRX way. PRX was a lot more milkish. They milked that thing to to death. But they did good with the BR collection. Next, Jfra100 says, looks good, but there's so many reports. Okay, he's talking about here about the Nove, what was it called? Atlantean. So many reports and reviews online about the dubious quality of this watch and the bezel mechanism. Would be great to get a real world review after months of ownership and use and see how it performs. Great channel and keep up the good work. Okay, thanks. Now, I think that's the most used Nove that I ever had. I don't have it here anymore. My mom took it for some reason. And quite honestly, quite frankly, I did not use that bezel mechanism since. But it looks like such a good tuna alternative. I still use my Seiko tuna, not as often as before, but that has gained more wrist time than my tuna. So that says something about Nove's design there. But keep in mind, it's not just the bezel, that unique bezel action. And I said it was a fidget spinner kind of thing going on there. Like if you have OCD, or not OCD, if you have ADHD or whatever they call that nowadays, if you like to fiddle a lot with your watches, you would fiddle a lot with that. I did that, but for the first few weeks. After that, I just wore it like another Seiko alternative. But hey, it is very robust. And it has a certain finesse to it that you won't see in any other watch. I think because I came from that anime mecha background, and I could see some of those stylizations on the case, and I think that's just part of the appeal to me. So that's where my mileage varied for most people, because I see that, and also the bracelet, it feels more welcome on my wrist. And again, I'm a person who's used to wearing G-Shocks and really big Seiko tunas, so that is right up my alley. I have no shame at all using that. I've used that even in the office, and people actually notice that, and that's a good thing, and that's a good thing. And I think many people would actually love that. And actually, the next comment is kind of related to what I'm about to say. So let's go to the next comment. Itable says that once realized the truth of Swiss made and learned how to service and fix my own watches, I became a terror of the pirate seas. Well, Itable said it very well there. That Nove Atlantean is Swiss made, but by quality, I'll be honest, is not on par with all of the other Swiss watches that I've seen. Okay, maybe it's a little bit more on the quality or in the level of Tissot and Hamilton, but maybe just under that. Why? Well, no, ironically, because of the numerals on the bezel, because that those rounded off 3D loom bezel actually doesn't project a sharp and Swiss like characteristic. Many people are on the edge when it comes to about edges and how luxury is perceived because of having those sharp edges. I feel it, depending on how you use those edges on the case. Like say for example, this is an Omega, which is a vintage Omega. Their edges are quite sharp and quite defined, but they're on a curved plane, and that's really hard to do. And I guess that subconscious appreciation of those kind of edges makes it feel more quality. But when you put that on an actual hard and flanked edge, it kind of feels raw and unrefined. So if you put that on certain places of your watch, then if you don't care, or if you're not careful at putting that in your watch, it will come off as raw and unrefined. And I think that's where the Nove Atlantean kind of gets a knock, because yes, it is Swiss made, but it's at the very bare minimum of that Swiss made moniker. Because here's the truth: for you to have a Swiss made tag on your watch, you should all you need to do is have 60% Swissness to it. Now that's, you source 60% of your parts in Switzerland and you assembled it in, or at least within, Switzerland. That's another thing about it, and that's all you need. But if you look at the watch, that 60%, it's very hard to see that Swissness compared to other watches that you actually, to compare to other Hamiltons. Certain Hamiltons have a lot more elegance and refinement to it that surpasses other Swiss brands. But most of the time, though, I mean, like, of course, Hamilton falters, and when it comes to, especially with soft edges, that's the worst part of Hamiltons. But it's not about Hamilton, but it's about Swissness in general. And I think that really matters not as much. So that's why many people are starting to wise up and not use the Swiss made thing as a deal breaker for their watches. And that's why the microbrand scene is exploding, because Swiss made doesn't really matter in that kind of area, in that kind of budget. No? But then there's some mixing now of markets, because certain microbrands are starting to surpass that $500 to $1,000 range, and they're now well into the 1,500 range as well. So it's not about the price, but it's about the quality. And we've seen so many good Asian market watches, even from Seagull too, that is quite frankly much better looking and much better in quality visually compared to many Swiss watches. So is Swiss made really that much of a big deal? Practically no. But still, I cannot deny that people still gravitate towards that impression that, oh, okay, because it's Swiss made. Simply because most people who don't dive into watch collecting and all of the watch information and media, they don't know better. They actually know more about their parents telling them, oh, this is Swiss made, this is very good. It's the same thing. I used to think that quartz was a good thing, or a thing of quality when it comes to watches. When it has quartz on the dial, it's a big deal to me, because that's what my parents or my father used to tell me, and that's what the TV promotions that I grew up with would readily say, But then now, as I grow older and as I know more about watches, it turns out, oh well, okay, it's really, I really didn't know that much when I was younger. So, Swiss-made watches, don't be too bothered by it. It doesn't really matter as much. Although, to many people who are not into watches, it's still a big deal. And that's why we also strive to make Swiss-made watches. And now, it's finally time for Mr. Zelos. Still waiting for mine. He's talking about the Bella Notte here. Guess that will happen in August. You're old? Ha! Hold my beer. Like that bracelet, complements the bezel and the dial very nicely. Adds a bit of elegance to the dive watch look. And most importantly, not a butterfly clasp. Okay, there you go. So that's his comment, and he's still really not so impressed with butterfly clasp. So that's what Mr. Zelos' preference is. So I guess the Nerede Oreo fits the bill for him, and I think that's a big winner. And now, big winner, not winner, winner. Okay. See you next time.